Hi! And we are here on week, I think it's 15 or 16 of these Instagram thingies, which is basically an excuse for me to have a couple of drinks and speak to a good mate. It's been quite nice, actually, doing this. Hi, Jayan, how are you? Hi, Branti. Shit, I spelled your name wrong. Branati, I'm so sorry. So basically this is a continuing experiment. Well, not experiment, more a method of me just staying sane during this whole lockdown and having a couple of drinks with a dear friend. And this week, Reeta Loi is going to join me. Hi, Reju. Hi, Bubbly. And Rita's here. Wicked. I'm looking forward to this. Reeta Loi. Like Rita blood, you know what I'm saying? Now, Reju, you didn't miss it. You're just in the nick of time. Nickage. Easy,
Oi,
Rita.
oi.
Hello, darling.
What's going on, mate?
I'm just going to centralise my head because I'm just coming off. How are you, love?
I'm good. I'm trying to get in the hair.
Look at your hair, man. It looks like a fucking rose. It's beautiful.
It's like rainbow vibes, isn't it?
That's quite appropriate. Exactly
Hi,
what I was going to say.
What are you saying, man? Did you get your hair cut?
No, I've just been using various potions and sprays to kind of keep this shit in check.
Yeah. Okay, so you can't do the sneezing thing right now.
You bastard. Already you started cussing me. Wicked.
No,
Thanks.
no, I'm not cussing you, man. I'm not.
Thanks.
Nah, that's nice. Jokes, man. It's all love.
But
man.
I can't do. Okay, basically what she's saying is there's a trick that I do when I get someone like a friend to sneeze over a video chat, and I push up all my hair, and no joke, it's like here. It's fucking massive. So yeah.
It's funny. It's good, man.
No, Jay, it's not hairspray. Actually, to be fair, you know what this is? You know what this is? It's sea spray. Bit of texture to cover up the bald patches and all that. It is a bit. How do you keep your hair so beautifully curved?
There's just loads of stuff in it, man. There's like just conditioners and shea butter and hairspray and all kinds of mad stuff. So it's
all that sounds terrible except for the shea butter. That sounds like the only thing that's going to be good for you, which is kind of similar to our lifestyle. So yeah, thank you for joining me.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, darling. Yay! I mean, every time we go for a drink, it's normally like about 4 or 5 hours until stupid o'clock.
Yeah.
Or sometimes till the morning after. So this is kind of the most civil we've ever been, I think.
I think so. Well, the night is young, my friend. So we'll see.
This is very true. This is very true.
You look really well, man. You look really well.
Thank you. As do you.
Thank you.
As do you. Kate saying hello from Perth. Hi, Kate.
Hi, Kate.
Hello. So what was I going to say? I think we're going to have to be slightly more behaved than we normally are.
Okay. I got it.
I guess. So yeah, I told you the premise of this. So basically every week it's like I have a drink with a mate in a bar, but there's tables close by that could eavesdrop. So we can't really chat as much shit as we normally would, but you know, a fair amount of shit.
Okay, let's do it.
So I was trying to think about like how the fuck do we actually meet?
I was just thinking about that. I actually can't remember how we met each other. I can remember times when we've met each other, but I can't remember the first time. So I don't know if it was like Nikesh's book launch for The Good Immigrant USA. I feel like that was...
I wasn't there for that.
Yeah, you were. You were on the decks, man.
For Good Immigrant USA, wasn't I in India?
Oh shit.
I think I was in India, and even for the Good Immigrant launch
party. No, it was for the other book. The other book. Shit, sorry, Nikesh.
What book? Fucking, should we just text Nikesh? Nikesh, what other book were we at? What are you talking about?
Yeah, I feel really bad. I bought that book as well.
Okay, guys. Basically, everyone in the comments saying don't restrict ourselves. But you know what? We won't restrict ourselves. It's just there's certain little. We'll just talk shit. Fine. But Reggie says upstairs at Horse and Groom.
Yeah. That was it. Yeah.
What book was that?
Upstairs at Horse and Groom.
It was one of his fucking books, wasn't it? It was something. But I'm sure we met before that at Hackney Carnival.
Was that before that, though? I feel like that was after that, because I bumped into
Reggie, seeing as you're watching.
Like... Reggie knows. Reggie's the only one that knows.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Okay, so the book that she's given us the answer, which is she's on the comments right now saying that the book launch was the one who wrote Destiny. So that's where we hung out.
That's the one. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
yeah.
I'm pretty certain that was way, way, way. Oh right, okay, fine. Hackney kind of was afterwards. Okay, so we met then. That sounds.
Thanks, Reggie.
That doesn't sound accurate. It doesn't sound as though it's as debauched as it normally is either.
That was, yeah. I mean, that wasn't that debauched a night actually, in comparison to like
every other time we hang out.
Our usual antics, yeah.
Huh.
Our usual antics. So how are you doing? Like, I know that like we're both quite social creatures, so we're all like we're out a lot, right? So this lockdown business is next level.
Mate, I tell you what. The only way I've been communicating with people is through this little fucking rectangle in front of me. Yeah. So like I said, every Wednesday, getting hammered with a mate has been really nice. And I've got to say, yeah, Sugner said, was that a mad lock-in time at Horse and Groom? There's been so many mad lock-ins at Horse and Groom. I can't even begin. But yes, I've been all right, man.
Yeah, good. You're doing these to get through it. That's cool, man.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, see you, mate. Sorry, I spoke over you. What did you just say?
I just said hi to Sarkib, a mate of mine. On my Gasians crew, you know, one of my team.
Nice.
Sarkib. Yeah. What are you drinking? Young
JD and Coke. What do you want?
I'm on the Martell. Not sponsored.
You're such a fucking uncle. What the hell is that, Martin?
I know. I can dress it up. I can put makeup on it. I can do the hair, but I'm blatantly an uncle. There's no getting away from that. So,
actually, we were talking about pronouns before. About what was your preferred pronoun, and what should I refer you as? Considering we're sort of being eavesdropped on in a bar.
My answer to that is you can call me anything. I'm really comfortable with any pronouns or. I don't have a preference really. I mean, she, her normally, but you know, I get called sir sometimes when my hair was shaved and I was in India, I'd get called sir quite a lot. I'd be walking around in my kurta pajama as well, right? And then even in London as well, like I sometimes get misgendered. But you know, I'm gender fluid, so for me, it's sort of, you know, it doesn't really matter to me. I don't have a requisite in terms of what my pronouns are. I've been called everything, man. Do you know what I mean? At this stage of the game, I'm like, call me what you like.
As long as it's not fucking rude, I guess, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But you know what? Actually, it just gave me a flashback when I opened the door to. We were at this festival in India, and there was a bunch of us in this room, and we called up some beers at like 4 a.m. Because we were in the artist sort of hotel bit. And the guy, the waiter knocked on the door, and I was just I needed to like wear some more clothes. So I saw a friend's dress, and I put on this mini dress. Yeah. And I opened the door really flamboyantly. And the dude didn't blink an eyelid. He just didn't blink, like didn't even bat an eyelid. And he was like, I signed for it. He went, thank you, ma'am, and shut the door. I was like, that's pretty fucking cool. That was quite, you know, that was awesome.
Yeah, because I think like the thing is, like most of my male friends are like you, are sort of like pretty rooted in a solid kind of their femininity, you know. So like for me, there's like we all encompass femininity and masculinity. So to think that they're like opposing in opposition with each other in a binary sense, like for me, like doesn't make sense. It never has, you know. Yeah. I was just always naturally into like boyish stuff, as you might think of it, you know, and like bikes and cars and football and basketball and things like that. So and I always sort of dressed you know, in boys clothes or more masculine clothes. Even when I was a kid, I used to put on my dad's suits when he was at work, you know, and put on the waistcoat and the, you know, the old 70s, that belt.
Did you have good suits or were they proper shit?
Oh, I had such good suits, man.
Well, that's all right then, you see, because if there was some like rubbish stuff from CNA, that's not a thing to be proud of.
Nah. It's like tailored shit, mate. Do you know what I mean?
Nice.
Proper so things. Like, yeah, and like, no, this is the thing, like.
So you're from one of those fancy families where your dad had good suits, huh?
No, like, not fancy, mate.
Like
No. We just appreciate style, like working class, low class. Just appreciate a bit of style. Do you know what I mean? That's it.
I get that. I get that. And as, you know, I think that honestly, Prince has a lot to answer for me growing up in like alpha male Birmingham. That shit wasn't going to work with me. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, and I think
that whole thing was.
Like, it's patriarchal, right? Our culture. So, you know,
The window's saying, "Don't diss CNA." I like fair play, man.
Yeah, like our culture's patriarchal, right? So, you know, I think that for me, sort of growing up in a very patriarchal family, and you know, sort of being gender non-conforming, I never really thought about it when I was a kid and stuff. But reflecting on it as an adult, I'm like, oh wow, no one ever said anything about that, you know.
So you had it. I mean, you didn't have any fuck ups or any sort of real points of contention growing up as who you wanted to be, or was there a definite breaking point where they're like, fuck this, line in the sand? Especially
Not
being a brown
really.
person with a brown family, you know what I mean?
No, I mean, look, I was born in Southall, and then we were in Southall till I was 6, and then my parents moved us to Winchester when I was 6 years old.
Really?
It's like the fucking opposite, right?
You went from brown, like the brown center of the world, to the whitest vortex you could possibly imagine.
Exactly. So like officially at the time it was like the richest city in England, and we were the first Asian family to move there.
So
right?
was it like sort of imagine like a pitch black night and a shining bright star, but the photo negative?
Exactly, yeah. Like imagine how confused you would be, right? So I went from like Southall, the cultural melting pot for our community in London, and sort of having family close by and coming round and sort of going to weddings and events and Temple, and then going to Winchester where we didn't have any of that stuff, you know, in easy access. So it was the complete opposite, you know. And we had a shop, right? So I was a shop kid, right? So
in Winchester.
In Winchester, yeah.
Fuck off.
Yeah. So like it was
way.
It was just like a completely a total 180 on my experience up until then, you know.
I mean, that must have been difficult, like let alone your sexuality or your gender, like your gender processes, but just race-wise, it must have been insane.
Yeah, and I think like I wasn't particularly conscious of it, because I think when you're 6 years old, you're not really thinking about like that kind of stuff in the way that I think about it now, which is constant, right? I think that, you know, at the time you're just like a kid at school who wants people to like you. So for me, it was like I went in with football stickers, sweets, crisps, right? I was that kid.
From your shop, you cheap bastard.
Yeah, and I used to sell that as well, right? And I made fair money, right?
Oh, see? Okay, so not only that, but you sold the shit at school.
Yeah, that's how I paid to go to university.
That's it.
So I was that kid. So like I started doing that when I was about 6, and used to go in, and it was because I wanted to be liked initially, right? And so I could have as many Panini football stickers as I wanted. So I always had like the best players, right?
I totally thought you said a Jamaican word for something else then, and I was just laughing. I was
Panini, mate, Panini.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I've got enough Panini stickers at 6. I was like, all right, girl.
I'm a fan of both.
Fair play. You know, sticker move, love, sticker move. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. So so I was that kid. And then initially it was like because I wanted to fit in and be liked, and then you know, then I realized, like, I think it's like my dad found these stickers in the stockroom because he was like clearing it out when we first got there, and there were these stickers of the British Bulldog, and it was like the World Cup Italia, right? And he was like, "Do you want these?" And I was like, "Yeah." And there was a stack of them. There's a whole box of them, and I was like, "What do I do with them all?" You know? And he was like, "Why don't you sell them to the kids at school, like, you know, 2p each or something?" Yeah. So like I did that, and they were like selling like hotcakes, man. And I was like, "This is a thing."
Nice.
You know? Yeah. Nice. And then just carried that on, and then it was supply and demand, and then it was like, by the time I was at secondary school, it was like fags and Zippo lighters. And then
you went dark side pretty quickly.
Yeah, I went deep on that, man. And then like by the time I got to by the time I got sixth form, I was like, fags, Zippo lighters. I used to go south of Broadway and get when we went there to get our masala and dhania, because you couldn't even get fucking coriander in Winchester, right? So we'd have to go and get our atta and everything, right?
So you'd drive from Winchester
to
Southall, which is a good couple of hours, isn't it?
Listen, so we were open like 7 days a week. We shut at 1 o'clock on a Sunday, and then we'd drive to Southall maybe like once a month and like stock up. And so I'd get like cassettes, CDs, Tag Heuer watches. I used to buy for $5 and sell them for 20 to the rich white kids, that like got the bus to school, because they were getting bare pocket money and they had nowhere to spend the money because the village shop wasn't open before school. So they'd get to school like sugar hungry and rich. So I was just feeding them, you know. So I was providing a service. That's it. Supplying the mom, my friend.
Nice.
Yeah.
I got some shouts in the comments saying talk to us. So I'm just going to take this moment to say hi, Eknur. And hello to Nick, who's from India, who's saying, will you marry them?
You or me?
You.
Should we both marry them?
I don't know, man. I think polygamy is kind of frowned upon, regardless of your sexuality or gender preference. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it depends. It depends, mate. It depends on what you agree in your
I mean, legally. Right? I mean, you can do your free touchings, but actual marriage, there's specific
free
one-to-one. Free touchings are all well and good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, free touchings. What does that mean?
Hey, what's the name? Todoroki Nick. There you go. I think they'd appreciate a hello from you, Rita.
Hello, everyone. I was just about to
there
do
you
that.
go.
Hello, everyone.
There you
Thank
go.
you for
there
joining
you go.
our mad chat. Because like with Nerm, like I never know which way it's gonna go. So I was actually like,
it's good. Yeah.
You asked me and I said yes because I'm kind of a yes person, but I've been quite scared, if I'm honest. I've been a little bit scared about this because
why?
Because I know, man. Yeah, go on. Come on then.
No, because think about it, right? If you look at everyone that's been on so far, I've been lovely. I haven't said anything untoward or anything bad. Like
I know.
You know, and it's actually this is the thing, right? So I was trying to come up with this whole name for these things, right? Because Instagram live interviews just shit, right? It's completely rubbish. So I was like, there's got to be a better name. So and some of my friends very publicly sort of ex-alcoholics and don't drink and so on. So I can't use pub or bar references. You know what I mean? Because there's that whole thing. And then like some of them aren't. It's not all brown people. Like it's a wide variety. I'm very blessed with an amazing group of friends that I've been drunk in front of, which is the only prerequisite for this. Is basically have I been a drunken asshole in front of them? Yes. Therefore, I would invite them on so I can talk shit at them and have a drink. So I don't know what the fuck to call it. So the chitter chatter is like the next is the winning thing at the moment. Chitter chatter.
Nice. I like that.
But it is all about bottoms though. So chitter, for those watching that don't understand, it's in Punjabi. Chitter means ass.
There's a lot of ass chat. I mean, before we went on, you did tell me that you were going for a poo.
Yeah. I'm very free with my chat.
And I love you, and I love how free and open you are.
So what were you concerned about?
It's just, I don't know yet, man. We're going to find out. Like, because you do. Listen, I've spent enough late nights with you to know how random the conversation gets. So this is like, woo. Be ready, everyone. Be ready.
Hot stuff. Hot stuff. But listen, so going back to Winchester and doing your whole missions and going back to your shops, because I'm a shop kid as well. We had a shop in Winchester, which is like near the Aston Villa football ground in Birmingham. And in the 80s, I mentioned it last week to Adil because it's like a proper drum bandit. We were talking about growing up there, and it was quite hairy for me growing up in that sort of environment in Birmingham. But for you in Winchester, it must have been something else. Or was it just all right? Did you just make friends with everyone?
Listen, mate, my parents had me on like a permanent lockdown, mate. So it was like I wasn't allowed to go out. I wasn't allowed to have boyfriends. Wasn't interested in boyfriends anyway. But I didn't know that then. So for me, it was like my parents were so scared.
Yeah.
That
easy Durga from India's here.
You know. And so I think, yo, Durga, hey, sweetie. I think that there was a general fear around. I think for that generation as well, right? Our parents' generation, in a community where you don't have like the support that you would normally have. This is just a roll up, FYI, and I am cutting down. What everyone's scared me about smoking.
Look at this proper shit. Yes, very good.
And so, did we have daytimes in Winchester? Sadly, no. Missed out on the whole daytime thing. Absolutely gutted. Did manage to like make up trips, like college trips and stuff, like sixth form trips and stuff, to like make excuses to be out. So I remember like the first time I went out on a Friday night, and it was always like Friday night culture, right? Friday night pub culture.
Yeah.
White people. So it was like, you know, going out on Friday night Reets. And it was like, nah, you know, my dad's really strict. That was my thing. And then, so we were in this kind of weird family cocoon of
What
culture.
year was this, if you don't mind me asking? Because the window's saying Birmingham was full of daytimers. And I remember going to a couple of daytimers at the Dome in Birmingham, big up all the Dome crew. And it was all right, but it wasn't really my thing. But yeah, carry on.
But
You were
yeah,
saying so.
it was yeah, 80s and 90s. It was mainly 90s.
Okay.
So
Right.
yeah, and then yeah, you know, there wasn't really access to that, you know. So for me, it was like being in the family home, like listen to a lot of radio, listen to a lot of music was my solace, you know, singing.
Sorry, music was your sonos.
Solace, man, solace.
Solace. I think just plug in left and right, Hennessy, Sonos. Are you getting fucking sponsorship for this that I'm not getting, you bastard? What the
wish,
fuck?
man.
You are hardcore more Guju than I am. First of all, you're making money from fucking selling stickers, and you're fucking getting your Hennessy and Sonos things.
No.
Sorry, what? What was that?
Love to the Gujis, but I'm 100% Punjabi, man.
Acha.
Just the shop kid, you know? So, yeah, it was a strange experience because it was like being a brown family in a without community. So my parents didn't have temple or support network or family to lean on either, you know. So we were kind of in this incubation space. And then when I left that, it's what we call now what we refer to now as code switching, right? Hey, Anushka. You know, we would refer to that now as code switching, but at the time that wasn't the language. We didn't have the language for that, right? It was literally, you know, you're this brown person at home, you know, having your sargon, you know, yellow roti, and then you're going to it out as soon as you leave the front door. You're in a white environment, right? So you're assimilated, you have to fit in.
You know, I was terrified of going out, and because I like basically in Birmingham and not being an alpha male, there was like the gay house nights were the first thing that I was like, okay, I can be as expressive as I want to. And then the drum and bass stuff was always in the back room of a big techno rave. Yeah. So especially in Birmingham, it was always so that was awesome. But one thing that used to terrify me was eating, in Gujarati, we call it shak, right? So shak rotli, right? Or sabzi and whatever. And fucking stinking of curry going out raving. And that was always my fucking thing. So I'd like a can of links and a pack of fags just to cut in the opposite, right? So you have a load of cigarettes to cover up the curry smell, right? and then the links or whatever deodorant you had. So it was kind of like, the base was the meti, right? So there's like the meti stench, then a layer of fags, and then a layer of like shit perfume. So yeah. So that's gonna be quite, you know.
Yeah, I remember like being in primary school and this kid was like, you smell of garlic. And I was just like, I mean, I don't even know if I really knew what garlic was or how much garlic we were using in our home food, But I was like, oh, you know, it was like, there were points where it was like, I started to become aware that I was different to the other kids, but there were so many levels of different, do you know what I mean? Gender expression, sexuality, ethnicity, class.
So what came first for you? Was it your sexuality or gender expression? Like, or was it all part of the same thing? Like post the race, like obviously the brown thing's there, but then you've got the whole queer thing as well. So.
I think for me, I didn't really understand the separation of sexuality and gender until quite recently in my adult life. You know, when I was younger, it was I was more boyish or a tomboy, as you call it, right?
Of course.
Yeah, or you might call it like masculine of center, you know, now. But I actually feel like my gender is fairly central. And it's fluid, so you know, some days I feel more masculine, some days I feel more feminine, but I think that they coexist, you know, and I embrace them both with love. You know?
But in that timeline specifically, when did you say come out?
I think as a kid, I remember I was about I think I was about 8 or 9 years old, and I was playing in the car park at the back of the shop, and that was like the space I was allowed to play in when I was like pre-teen, right? Before proper lockdown set in, and I had my car park crew, right, my gang, right? It's like a weak ass Winchester gang, but it was a gang. It's the best I
Your
thought.
car park gang that stuck out in your car park, basically.
Car park kids, yeah. So like it was basically all the shop kids from the street would come and hang out, and we'd skateboard and play football, whatever. And I remember like we were playing chase. I was about 8 or 9, and Andy from the chip shop said, "Who do you fancy?" And I said, "Julie, who is his sister," right? And he laughed at me, pointed his finger, and then ran and told all the other kids. And then I was like, no, I didn't say that, I didn't say that. And then that was the first time I experienced shame about expressing, you know, what I thought was quite normal, and still do actually, which is that we're all attracted to masculinity and femininity in whatever body or form that comes in. And at the time, though, that was shamed. So that was when I first learned to not say anything about it. And everywhere around me, there was no example of homosexual couples, right? So what I thought was in my childhood brain was that we're all we're attracted to guys and girls, but you marry somebody of the opposite gender, right? And because
to procreate, or what? Or is that just what society says?
Sorry, say that again.
To procreate, do you think in your mind, is that what you're thinking?
No, I don't even think I thought that far ahead at that point. I mean, now, yeah. But I mean, at the time, I was like, you know.
That's just what you do, basically.
That's just what you do, because everyone in my family had an arranged marriage before me. I was the first person to not do that. I've got about 40 cousins in the UK that have all had arranged marriages. And so, you know, my number was coming up all the time, you know.
By the way, I just want to say 40 cousins is not an exaggeration.
No, it's not. That's standard, man.
Yeah.
That's just Birmingham.
Yeah.
Birmingham lot, you know.
And then there's the Winchester lot that are all, yeah. But yeah, sorry, please continue.
Yeah. So for me, it was like the path was to have an arranged marriage. And I remember my mum saying to me when I was really small, like something about, when do you get married? And she was like telling me something. And I was just like, I'm not getting married. And she was like, she chased me with a chopper around the house. And she's like, what are you talking about? And she's going to give me bare licks. And I was like, all right, mum, I'll get married when I'm 30, you know, trying to stave it off. And she was like, 30, what are you talking about, you know? So, like, I made no sense at all to my parents, I'm pretty sure, or to the kids at school, or to, like, my cousins, actually, in a lot of ways, you know, because I was becoming increasingly, my accent was changing from being Southall to this RP Winchester accent, you know, and I was sort of feeling a little bit alien from them. You know, I wasn't.
What does RP mean?
It's something. Oh God, I can't remember now. I was talking about it the other day. It's basically the Queen's English.
Oh right, okay. So like right proper.
Something, yeah.
Like proper good,
right
basically.
proper, yeah.
Oh, like, yes.
I've been trying to decolonize, man, so I don't know. But so
by existing, you are radical, basically.
Yeah, so there's always been a sense of feeling othered in whatever environment I've been in, which has for me become the norm, but has also led to sort of compartmentalization of self and identities. And it's only in recent years that I've started to bring all those facets of identity together. So to answer your question, gender for me was something that was something I was not conscious of. It was just a space I was playing in, and then. Received pronunciation. Yes, Reggie's our saviour today.
Reggie's killing it. And also,
big up, that was it.
Big up John in the comments who's saying he didn't fully come out till 41. He was married for 23 years. Big up John, man.
Yeah, good for you, man. Congratulations.
And thank you, Reggie, for correcting our pronunciation.
Yeah, pronunciation. So to answer your question, for me, there was the sexual aspect of attraction was shamed very young. So I just kind of kept it to one side. I didn't pay any attention to it. I didn't give it any energy, you know. And then it wasn't until I went to uni, and I was the first person in my family to go to uni, because I was like, I need to not be getting married off. So all that money I saved from being a shop kid at school, I used to pay for my first year at uni, right?
You didn't set up your mistress business or like anything else. You went to university to stop being married, or stop the threat of marriage, or delay the threat of marriage.
Delay the marriage thing, right?
Yeah.
And I remember pitching that into my dad and being like, I need to go to uni. This is like a really good thing. And da-da-da. And I went into the shop and I picked up a copy of the Financial Times. I sat down with him. I was about 14 or something. And I was like, look, there's this new thing called marketing, and marketing directors are getting paid bare money. And I've been doing this all my life. So,
yeah.
And I thought, because he was like, lawyer, doctor, accountant, which one? And I was like, I kind of don't want to do any of those things. Like, I'm an artist. I want to make music. And he was like, no, no, no. And I was like, what about media? And he was like, no, no, no. And so then I landed on marketing. And so I sold it into him, you know. But I think it wasn't until I started university and had the experience of being able to, like, fuck, like, for want of a better word. Like,
you do the touchings.
Being able to do the datings, yeah. And just, like, hook up and just, like, explore my sexuality, you know, in a way that I hadn't been able to because I wasn't allowed to go out, right? So, and at that point, you know, I was dating guys, and that was what you were supposed to do, and obviously in secret from my family, standard. And then, yeah.
I think right now, if you were dating guys, it'd be secret from fucking everybody.
Yeah, totally. I can't go back there now, man. Literally, like my
fair play.
It's like I can't. It's like, so yeah, I kind of, I am rebellious though, so who knows? But I think, yeah, then that's when I started dating women and was like, oh, holy fuck. You know, I remember the first time someone asked me if I was a lesbian, and I was like 18, and I was just hearing that word. I was like, what? Like, I'm trying to dodge arranged marriage right now. I really don't need the gay thing, you know? And I had no frame of reference. I didn't know any queer people. I'd never been to a gay bar.
I think words like sort of like really strict definitive words like homosexual or even heterosexual or lesbian or whatever, they're kind of quite massive words, right? Whereas gay is kind of nice and little. You know what I mean? I don't mean to dismiss what it is at all. I don't mean to take away from it. But it can be quite imposing because of the size of it, I guess.
It can. And for me, for a long time, I've used the word gay to define myself and my identity. And then I've sort of moved into queer because I feel like queer encompasses a gender fluidity as well as a sexuality space, right? And I think there is fluidity in all of this as well. So I think a lot of labels can be quite challenging because, you know, it puts you in a box, it defines you, you know.
And I imagine, I mean, just speaking from not my own experience, because I'm obviously a cis man and I'm not gay, but from friends of mine that I've got, like a wide variety of friends. Got to over-explain this, but basically the point is even those descriptions can be restrictive in certain ways because things do evolve and mutate and form, and they're you know, they're a little more fluid, as you say.
Yeah. And you're always growing and changing and evolving. And I think often, you know, we in any kind of relationship, you know, we're sort of with two people, whether that's romantic or whether that's friendship, whatever, you're you know, it brings out different aspects in you and different parts of you. The conversations I have with you will be different to conversations I have with you know, another friend. So it's like that sense of how your gender and sexuality are fluid and malleable in terms of the person you're with, I think is important as well. And so when we give ourselves these labels that are really restrictive, I think it can be really hard because you come out as one thing. And, you know, it's quite often a natural progression has often been, before we've had as much language as we have right now around gender and sexuality, for most of us, it's been a case of that's the word, lesbian or gay or bisexual. So initially I defined myself as bisexual as I was exploring and working stuff out. And for me, I was kind of like, I have to work out this gay thing before I finish uni and have to move back in with my parents and my family, because they were like, we're going to marry off your sisters if you don't come home. So I was like, oh no, like.
And what year was this? The window in the comments is saying, what year was this? Is this early 90s
like,
at uni?
When was this? This was like early 2000s.
Right.
Yeah, early 2000s. So I was in uni like late 90s, early 2000s, graduated, moved back in with the folks just because I was concerned about my sisters being married off. And then, you know, eventually sort of got to a place where I could move out, and sort of the arranged marriage thing was kind of clearly not what I wanted, and the pressure kind of lifted a bit, and I moved out and sort of you know, started a more independent and autonomous life, which, you know, I thank university for, further education for, because that allowed me to be financially independent in a way that a lot of women in our community are not able to be because of patriarchy, right? So
that's fascinating. I didn't even consider that aspect of it either. So that's like another fucking layer of nonsense you got to get over.
yeah, and I think, if we look at the LGBT space more broadly, it's very male heavy, and I think personally that I don't think that's because women are less queer. In fact, I would say the opposite. But I would say that there are certain factors that prevent women from exploring their sexuality or potentially doing that later in life. And that is because of patriarchy and fueling heteronormativity. And so we, and that's so amplified in our culture as diaspora, right? So like our parents left the motherland or our grandparents, and they left with this, like, I always think of this like photo that they have in their back pocket of this is home, and it's actually a fantasy space that is created from their childhood about a romanticized version of what the Bend was, right? And then they come here, and then they are in close proximity with communities and family and people like themselves, because that's what else you're going to do, right?
Yeah.
In this space that's colonized you, right, or enslaved you, you're going to try and be with people that remind you of home, and then you create that home in your home. And we grew up in that home that is based on a place that doesn't exist.
See, I think it's super concentrated because they hold on to it even fucking more, right?
Yeah,
so then you end up with going to India on tour in like 2000 or 2001 for work. I was fucking blown away. I was just like,
yeah,
this is not the India that my parents talk about. You know what I mean? It's just
massively.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And I think that it was interesting, just like in terms of the kind of sexual freedoms and liberations of the women that I knew in India at that point to England was almost worlds apart. It was just incredible. It's still, it's still, obviously there's a lot of issues. Don't get me wrong. There clearly are still issues. But as in 2000, I was blown away by how advanced and how independent my female friends in India were. What?
Yeah.
Compared to just how conservative the immigrant experience for brown people in England is,
And
it was nuts.
I had the same experience, man. And it's like, I didn't feel like I had permission to go to India because, as you know, I was disowned when I came out to my family.
See, I don't know that. Tell me about that, if you don't mind.
So my dad hasn't spoken to me for 14 years. And there was, I didn't tell my family about my sexuality or anyone I'd ever dated, until I'd reached a point where I'd met somebody that I felt like I could spend my life with. And that's just out of what I deem to be respectful. So I was in my...
If you take someone home, you're kind of serious about them. So it's a thing, right?
Yeah, it's a thing. And I think I was I was about 27 when I came out to my mom, and my mom was devastated. And her first question was she cried a lot and she didn't really understand. And she was just like, again, no frame of reference, right? It's one thing for me to go on my journey and to build a community as I have in my activism work and with my organisation Engagements to unite people who are South
Amazing
Asian
plug, by the way. Pro-gay right there. Wicked.
Yeah, and then, but then what support is there for our parents, And at the moment there's very little or none. So, they're there going, well, I don't understand this. This is a Western thing.
That's really kind of you, because I assumed the thing would be, well, fuck them. That's really interesting. I never even thought about it.
No, it wasn't. And, you go through the different stages of grief in terms of that loss, and I think the loss for me has been life defining, because, and it's a daily thing. It doesn't ever go away, because you're always celebrations, birthdays, Mother's Day, Father's Day, all of these things, you're excluded from. And it's not just an exclusion of family occasions. When you've grown up in a bubble of that family, because you weren't allowed to go out and develop friendships with other people, so it's very heightened and amplified because of that experience. And it wasn't just my siblings and my parents that I lost. It was also all of my cousins, my aunts and uncles. It was my culture, my language, my food, my customs, the weddings, the celebrations, the music, everything, the film. So it was like, for me, growing up in such a Desi household and then losing access to that and being with a partner that was non-Asian as well, was really challenging. And actually, it was tough. I got really depressed.
But were they a doctor though? Because that would have solved everything.
No, a teacher, which I thought would be like good, you know. And like, yeah, her granddad was like the mayor of Windsor and knew the Queen, so I was going for that whole like.
Bruv, that would have been amazing. Sure.
Yeah, like,
was like, fuck
you know,
it.
we're 2 degrees away from the Queen. Come on, like. So I thought that would like score some words, but it didn't work. Anyway, and you know, there is something about, as I reflect on it now, and I reflect on my friends and my network, my community, my people, as I have it now that I've built for myself, I would say that it's very much over indexing in people of color, right? Which is interesting when so much of the spaces that I've been in have been white spaces, where I grew up, where I went to school, where I went to university, where I've worked, right? And so they're the people I've taken with me. So that's also predominantly the people that I've dated and been in relationships with as well. And so there's an awareness around, you know, having chosen this person to be the person that I was going to go to my parents and be the coming out relationship, right? For them to have been white, you know, in that there's a sort of like, I think that there's, in our culture, we have this sort of like aspirational relationship with Britishness and whiteness, you know, because that's what colonization has done.
Or so particularly Victorian ideals of it, perhaps. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. And I think also, like, if you're not around an Asian community, it's like, and also the queer scene at the time was that I wasn't meeting any Asian queer people. So yeah, and it's really interesting. It's so cool what's happening now, because, you know, like pre-lockdown, obviously, pre-COVID, spending the last few years, because I came out of that relationship, but, you know, spending the last sort of, you know, 3-4 years immersed in queer culture to such a massive degree in terms of what's happening in people of color communities, Black communities, Asian communities, Latin communities. There is so much sort of start-up kind of cool club culture that's going on, and safe spaces that we didn't have back then, you know. And so I've really immersed myself into those spaces, you know, and it's really enriching. It's massively enriching.
I think the thing that I love about you is that there was a period of lament that I went through in around about 2012 where I've personally felt there's like, okay, we're on Radio 1, we've got all these club nights as brown people, right? We've broken through all these genre barriers and whatever the fuck. It's like, we've broken the glass ceiling. And you know what? There was fuck all. After that, there was nothing else. It was like, oh, shit. And then suddenly, maybe 5 years ago, there was a wave of amazing women, yourself included, but also Dana Ms. Mohammed, Nabia Iqbal, the Tuts, like women of color just fucking owning their shit and doing it on their own terms. I was like, this is what I've just been so, like, I've been waiting for this shit. You know what I mean? It's so excited.
Yeah.
And that ownership of it is just of themselves, and just like being just fucking, I don't want to use out and proud because that's a specifically sort of, you know, gay term, but literally in terms of everything about them, it's just like, fuck it. And it's so heartening to see.
We're so underrepresented as Asians and South Asians, people of color more broadly, in the diaspora when it comes to the arts, and which is ironic because, you know, our cultures are so art-centered, and there are multiple reasons for that. I think the patriarchy, again, there is also a focus on first generation to emphasize lawyer, doctor, accountant. You know, we want you to go and we want you to be financially stable. We need to create generational wealth because we're coming here without it, right? We've lost our generational wealth. We've been colonized. We've been stripped bare. And so we have to start again. And so we will come here and we will do that in amongst the colonizers, right? What a decision. And then we're in this space where, you know, giving ourselves permission, I think for me as a Desi woman, to give myself permission to create my art and be an artist is one of my biggest challenges, you know, because I think that in my, you know, I used to be a jazz singer and spoken word artist in Brixton, like back in the day, and then I was in a trip hop band for about 7 years, and then we did pretty well, and we were signed.
What was your band? I'm going to Google it now.
It was called Low Freak, LOFREQ. And then, you know, I grew up on Eastern sounds, right, and Eastern scales. And so as a singer, I've always been drawn to jazz. And
because of semitones.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and because of the riffs that you can have in the notes between the notes. And so for me, that just felt very natural to me. And so, and when my voice best lent itself, but I love beats and I love dance culture and I love garage and breakbeat and drum and bass and all of those scenes that emerged when I was partying when I was younger. And so it was like, actually my sound is like a melting pot of those things. But I feel like when I was in the band, it was like there was a negotiation in me that I was not really conscious of, I think, around, but I remember a discomfort around not just the masculinity of it. Like I'd do a gig, right, and I'd have my band and I'd be in front of the mic to sound check, and the sound engineer, always like some hairy, stinky white guy, would walk straight past me and talk to my guitarist to ask how I wanted my levels, right? It's like,
so, but it wasn't as if you're Prince and there's a no eye contact rule, right? It's not as if you were such a fucking diva and it's like no one talk to Reeta because she's the fucking dom of this shit.
No, it was the opposite of that. It was like, oh, I'm just a singer, you know what I mean? So you're gonna go to Mandem over there and talk to him because it's a guy and you only know how to talk to guys.
Because it's XY.
Yeah, so it's like it was that. It was also you know, I wasn't, you know, the whole kind of Asian underground movement, I participated in that as a listener. But I was in Winchester. I wasn't in London for those day parties. I wasn't part of that, you know, like you were. So when I came
I was completely post. I was like 2000. So I was like,
Yeah, so similar to me then, yeah. So like, and so that was kind of like closing out, right? And then, like you said, there's just been a dearth of like, there's been nothing going on for our community in the music space. It's felt like.
Well, I mean, we were there, but like, you know,
for a while.
Yeah,
you know,
but I mean, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And I think that is about, you know, us as artists, as South Asian artists, giving ourselves permission to create our art and it feeling valid. And I think as women, we often feel like, particularly in South Asian culture, that we're so minimized, you know, our boundaries are crossed all the time. We don't even know what our boundaries are. So how do we know what we want? How do I hear my voice? How do I know what I even sound like or what I want to sing about or write about? If I don't know, because I'm too busy making sure that, you know, the men in the house are happy, the dad's happy, my brother's happy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like,
yeah, totally.
Those things, like, so you there's the sort of like censorship and erasure of self that happens just by being in a body that is a female body in our culture.
You know, it's really fucked is when that perpetuates itself. And when you get, I guess, when you've got progressive women in a household that are then told by other women in the household that there's a certain way they have to behave. And that's, I mean, that's something I had to get my head around, not as a woman, but as a fucking privileged man, because I don't have these problems. So let me mansplain this to you. I mean, fuck. But yeah, it's fucked. The perpetuation of it from like an older generation to a younger generation it still shocks me. I'm still like, what?
You can see why that happens though, right? You can see how that happens, and you see it in other spaces like with FGM, for example. You see it because... With
what, sorry?
With FGM, female genital mutilation.
Yeah.
It's like you see this shame around what is done to to women, to our bodies, to our rights, you know, to our voices. The subjugation of that is then, if you're women that have been made to feel shame about any transgressions in culturally what's expected of you through patriarchy, you're going to make sure that your daughters align with that for their sake and for your sake and for the family's sake, right?
Yeah. Well, because it's a sense of community you want to maintain, right?
you want to maintain, and I think often people aren't asking questions about why, so I think and I've challenged my mom around where her belief that homosexuality is wrong comes from, and the only way she
Victorian Britain, Kama Sutra had enough women doing all sorts of things.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, we're queer as fuck, man. Do you know what I mean? So like, it's look at look at our mythology, look at the deities that are constantly being fucking defaced in India, right? Like,
Nikita's new book is about that.
Yeah, I know. I love Nikita. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
So there's so much rich kind of resource in that. And I think that it's remembering that and coming from that place, gender expression, sexuality. I think that colonization has had a massive role by criminalizing homosexuality, which I think is based on capital and human capital. You want people procreating if you're using their people as labor, right? So I think there are a lot of reasons for it. When you speak to someone like my mom, the only frame of reference she had, she was like, do you want an operation? Because she thought I wanted to transition.
Okay.
Because trans was something more relatable for her.
Yeah.
Right? Which is really interesting. And, the more time I spend in India, the more of that I see.
Yeah. Sorry, you were saying.
No, go on.
No, I think it's fascinating that, and there's something Durga's referencing right now that's interesting that I want to come back to as well. But it was interesting that I'm trying to sort of obscure where this is coming from, because it's not my space to speak for other people. But what I've noticed in the older generation is that they see homosexuality as changing gender. There's a sort of duality of those two things, which isn't the case. So the understanding of like, oh well, so and so, like, she has become a man and he has become a woman.
Yeah.
Is the general sort of perception of it,
And the thing is, I felt the same way, because before there was language around how I define my gender, which is fascinating because it's very new in the West. But gender expression, there's something like 300 different words to express gender in India, right? So gender expression has had so much space around it in South Asia. But Durga say, yep. But, in the West, we're just catching up around language. And so gender has been tied into sexuality for a really long time here. LGBT, the T is very recent. The trans community were only welcomed into that space quite recently, right?
Yeah.
And so the separation around language is really vital. For a long time, I felt like I was exploring my sexual identity, but what I was really exploring was my sexual identity and my gender identity as two separate components. But so you might have defined me as a stud, or you might have
define yourself as a stud.
You might have no, but some people might. But a STEM is a word, like a combination of stud and femme, right? So or dyke, I would refer to myself as a dyke. Again, I like to use slurs and transform them. Gaysians was a slur term that we'd use against ourselves, and that was used against us as sort of undesirable LGBT plus people. And with a whole host of issues, right?
I mean, there's a long history of co-opting your oppressor's language against them.
Yeah,
and turning it around.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, and I'm all for that with Gaysians and with queer or anything else. Dyke, I'm quite comfortable referring to myself as a dyke and owning that. But there are so many different words, and remember, all these words mean different things to different people. Just because I say it in the way that I intend it doesn't mean that you receive it in that way. You're receiving it in the way that you understand based on your experience.
And that you process it based on your own. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So I think going from all of that to then, I remember one time on Pride when someone asked me about doing a set, and I was like, why me? And then someone was like, because you're the most gay-friendly person that I know. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll help that thing out. And I spoke to you, and I was like, and I think we've had a couple of conversations about gay artists, and I'm so fucking ignorant of people's actual sexualities because I'm in such a privileged position that I don't really pay attention to genders or those things. But you use the term And so thank you for that, first of all. But then you used a term which was awesome, which is like, yeah, I'm a pro gay, which was wicked. I've always every time like Reeta the professional gay.
Professional gay, yeah. It started as a bit of a joke. I mean, just because, I mean, it wasn't like when I was a kid, I was like, when I grow up, I want to be a professional gay or anything. I was just like I like making music and I like writing, you know, and I'm writing a book. But it's like, you know, for me, it was like, it was a calling, you know. I spent so many years trying to find people like me, other queer South Asians. And, you know, a decade ago, if you went on Google and you searched, you know, and at this point I've been disowned, I didn't know any queer South Asians, I didn't know where to go to meet people like me. And I felt very isolated and alone. So, you know, when I was Googling Indian lesbian or Asian lesbian, you're going to get porn, man. And I'm not complaining. But
also, big up Pritham who's just on this. Sorry, I just saw Pritham say something. Yeah, but I mean, dude, I mean, happy times for you. There you go.
Yeah. I mean,
we were discussing that today, actually, lockdown self-love. But anyway, we'll stop that.
Yeah, we were. It's very important to love oneself.
Exactly.
Daily.
There you go.
So, yeah, I forgot what I was talking about now, mate.
Finding your community, basically, and using the professional gay and owning.
So Googling, you know, it was like, I eventually, after years of Googling and searching for stories like mine, I found this like...
You're such a fucking desi. I was Googling for so long until I
Googling, wanking because it's all Asian lesbian porn man. And then I stumbled upon a blog post that had been written by a woman in Bombay. And I was like, wow. And she wrote about a story and experience. And I was like, fuck, it's not just me. Like, there are other people like me. But she's in fucking Bombay. I can't be the only one in the UK. So I just kind of went really grassroots. I went to events. I sort of, you know, went deep into social media and sort of tried to find organizations that were doing similar stuff to the site that put this blog post out, Gacy Family in Bombay, who are amazing. You know, there were different events going on. I went to these events and met people. And then I met, you know, I was meeting so many amazing kind of activists that were doing like meetups or doing sexual health support or mental health support for whether you're trans and you're in Wales, or whether you're a gay man and you're in Handsworth, or whether you're a bisexual woman in Leicester, you know, whatever it was, there was stuff going on. But
proper Brum Bandits. Yeah,
Brum Bandits. So like, can't believe you just made me say that. This is what I mean about you, man. So Brum Bandits, mate.
Brum Bandits is wicked, isn't it?
That's quite good. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
And then like, and then I was like, oh, there are all these amazing organizations, but why can't I find them online or on the line? And I was like, well, because basically they're all self-funded, or they've received such little charity funding that they can't promote themselves. And so that's when I set up the website gations.org about 3.5 years ago, and put all these organizations on there and made it easy for people to find the help that they need, you know?
Yeah. So we spoke about this, about how sort of the experience of exploring the gay world. So like I said, I'm a straight guy, but like gay music helped me sort of express myself a lot in Birmingham. And then in London, there's a fuckload of it. So yeah, you can do what the fuck you want in London, you know? But you didn't do that in the real world. It was all mainly online.
It was, it's been a bit of both. It was kind of, a lot of it was online. Then I saw a tweet about this event that was going on at the House of Commons, which was like an LGBT South Asian like panel. So I just went down there, and that's when I met quite a lot of people. I mean, I guess my first kind of access to other queer South Asians was I was asked to be part of a theatre production probably about a decade ago. And they selected 10 stories, including mine, about coming out experience. And that was being created and produced, and there was a workshop in South Bank, and I went and I met other people, and I was like, oh wow, okay, great. That was my
and that was the first physical interaction. Actually, Nick on the comments is talking about Club Kali with DJ Ritu. Big up. Original gay South Asian sister.
Yeah, like Club Kali is like an absolute foundational rock in our community.
We have a timing warning. It's going to cut off now. Oh, okay. So let's. Shall I call you back? So I'll cut off and then come back.
Call me back.
I'll hit you up. So guys, everyone watching, rejoin us. I'm gonna go take a wee actually as well. So I'll be like all of 30 seconds.
Yeah. See you soon, guys.
I'll come back online. Okay. Thank you. Back on part 2 coming up.
Hi, welcome back. This is part 2 of my chat with Reeta. Part 1 was a lot of fun. Okay, so Rita's just messaged me saying she's having a pee. Let's see if she joins. It might be a while. I don't know her urinating habits, so I don't know how long she normally takes. But let's see if she rejoins. In the meantime, thank you for rejoining. It's lovely to see you. Easy Sarvesh, how are you, bruv? Good to see you. It's been a while. Missing Bombay, bruv. I really am. Though the rain here is kind of making up for the monsoon season, it's good. Hi. So we are waiting for the wonderful Reeta Loi. We were just chatting for an hour or so just now about her experiences growing up. Reeta Loi is a fucking gangster, by the way. She's an LGBTQ activist, represents a platform called Gaysians, which is about gay Asians, shockingly. It's in the title. So we had a chat for an hour or so. We needed a bit of a toilet break, and also we reached that 1 hour Instagram point. But I reckon she's still in the loo. Let's see. I'm going to message her now. There she is. She's back. That was a really quick wee. Hi, Durga. There we go. Now, Reeta has sent me a request for her friendship. Let's see if she accepts, or if I can accept her friendship.
Will friendship happen? Who knows? It's like internet roulette.
Hello, baby.
Hello, love. Dude,
Hello.
do you remember chat roulette?
Oh, yeah.
That was so fucked up. It was just basically loads of dudes wanking constantly. Hi, Nikesh. Nikesh is here. Happy birthday, bro.
Hey, oh, happy birthday, mate.
Dude, he's 40.
I know, yard.
He's 40.
Wanking,
Wanking.
I think, is imperative to the human condition, and it should be a part of our daily self-care routine.
Personally, I think it should be a fucking an Olympic sport.
Do you remember the first time you wanked?
Yes. Dude, okay, I lost. Okay, fine, fuck it. I'll tell you. So I'm meant to be doing this shit to you. You're doing it to me. Fine. So basically, I lost my virginity to a vacuum cleaner. When I was like 13, 14. And easy, Pavan's in the chat.
Hey, Pavan. Hey, baby.
Easy. Blue Man crew in the house. Blue, da-boo-dee-da-boo-da. Anyway, so basically, speaking about things turning blue, I lost my virginity to a vacuum cleaner. And it was basically, as a kid, you kind of, as you go through puberty, you kind of told things about, various things you should be doing to instigate joy and happiness to yourself. And nothing really worked. So I was like, I wasn't doing it sideways. I was doing it proper, but nothing really worked. And then I got the sort of attachment to the end of a vacuum cleaner. All right, Zaki, you're just in time for this story. I got the end of this red Hoover, which was like an upright with the attachment.
What, like a Henry?
No, a red Hoover. Hoover, man. Come on.
I don't know. It sounds a bit gay to me, but go on.
I take my vacuum cleaners seriously. This is an Issey Miyake Dyson.
Oh, mate, that's some serious suction power. Go on.
You don't know. That's an Issey Miyake limited one, by the way. But anyway, so basically, I got the attachment, put it on the end of my knob, and I'm my first orgasm.
Wow. How old were you?
I was 13, 14, and there's not much fluid, right? It's just like, it's not actual much substance. It's all mouth, no trousers, if you pardon the pun. So basically, I kind of had fun times with my vacuum cleaner. The fucked up thing was that then...
Were your parents like, he's always hoovering?
Well, here's the thing. I used to sort of wedge the door. I'm hoovering, Mum. I'm cleaning my room, Mum. Right? While fucking my vacuum cleaner. And then then he got really, really fucked up and kind of Pavlovian in the response. So I'd come home, see the vacuum cleaner, and get a little tiny erection.
Mm-hmm. Do you still? Does that still happen? Does it?
No. I'm over. I discovered like actual human beings in like drugs and alcohol and the rest of my life. This was just the entry point.
That's
so the
good.
point
Just
is,
just checking in.
Yeah. I mean, that was the first time I wanked. It
Well,
was assisted. Yeah.
Congratulations, my friend.
I mean, of
Wanking,
course, I have
my
these
darling,
disgusting knobbly fingers now, so all's well.
I started wanking when I was about I think I was about 4.
By the way, just want to say to all of my friends that are tuning in now, she started the wanking chat, not me.
Hang on, you started the wanking chat when you called me earlier.
Not on this live, I didn't.
No, not on the live. I brought it into the live because it's important. It's self-care and it's self-love, and it's really important that everyone's wanking on a regs. Like,
so sorry, I interrupted you about your wanking story. Please
so
continue.
I started wanking when I think I was about 4, and I had this best friend.
What the fuck? 4?
In Southall called Bubbly, and not her real name. I think her real name's like.
Don't fucking out her for God's sake.
Sorry.
Idiot. There's people listening and shit.
So Bubbly would come around and she was like, so her dad and my dad were best mates, right?
Right.
And so so Bubbly and her brother Ruby would come around and we'd hang out, and Bubbly was like, hey, like we were hanging out one day and she was like, there's a really cool thing you can do where I think this was my first lesbian experience. And she was like, we were just 4, and like, she was like, she took me into the front room, and our parents were in the living room, and
so it was the added excitement of getting caught.
Yeah, because you're not allowed in the front room yet.
As well as having a joint date of 8, you fucking weirdo.
Yeah.
But yeah, carry on.
So then she like basically went up to the sofa and she started like humping the armrest, and she was like, it feels really good. So then I was humping the other armrest, so we were like both like fucking the sofa basically, and then this became a bit of a thing, you know. Maybe this is why my parents moved me to Winchester, I don't know, but
to get away from this bad influence of your sofa fucking
already. So but by the time I got to Winchester, I remember I had this cowboy suit that was like my favorite outfit, and it was like a check shirt, corduroy, similar to this but brown, waistcoat, sheriff's badge, hat,
like Woody from fucking brown. Toy Story.
Yeah, like that, but obviously cooler. And so I thought, and then I was about 6 at this point.
I mean, Woody, what an appropriate name for a lesbian. Yes,
Woody, yeah, Woody would be maybe my alter ego. And I, one of them, I was wearing this it's like a leather holster, which it has had my pistol in it, and so I used to love wanking in this cowboy suit when I was like 6 years old, and my mum would come in and because the shop was downstairs, right? So I was there having my merry way in my cowboy suit with my trousers around my ankles, like having a wank in my cowboy outfit, right? But that was just my thing, you know, still into it. And mum would come in, she'd be like, what are you doing? And obviously the first thing I could think of, maybe not obviously, but for me was like, oh, mum, I need a wee. So she would like grab me, take me to the toilet, sit me on the toilet and sit there and try and get me to wee. And I don't know if this is an Asian thing, but my mum used to go, did you have that? Listen, if anyone does that to me, I will piss myself. I literally cannot control my piss. Right? Even now, right?
Wow.
So she would do that, and so this went on, right? And so she caught me multiple times, and then she got worried because she kept catching me in my cowboy suit with my trousers around my ankles, wanking, and me saying, "Oh, Mum, I need a wee," right? And then she'd sit me on the toilet, and I wouldn't be able to wee. So she was like, "What is wrong with this kid?" Right?
There's a bladder condition. We must go to the doctor.
What is wrong with this kid? So then my mum would take me to the doctors, the white doctor, right? And he'd be like, oh, well, you know, let's have a little look and stuff. And then like check me out, and he'd be like, does this hurt? And I was like, no. And then he was like,
your screw face no was fucking perfect.
Weirdo.
No.
So touch me up, man. And then I was like, you know, he was like, she's fine, right? But like the amount of times I had to go into the doctor, like my mum would catch me so much because that was like my thing, you know. But I started wanking like really, really young, really early on. I used to get caught all the time. But I didn't care.
I think there's a thing about sort of male masturbation. You got your hand, you do your things, right? There's a lot more sex toys for women. Let's say, let's put it that in those terms. But the one commonality that we have, apart from that we're both shop kids, and there's obviously some, you know, understandings and things, is that we both fucked inanimate objects to that first masturbation experience.
Yeah.
Although mine had an engine, because, you know, I'm a man in that, because I need a bit of power.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there are other things that I had sex with as a child. That I maybe won't go into. But
wow, yes. Excellent.
but yeah,
And I'm sorry, you were
Hoover
afraid
thing,
of this
man,
conversation. You should have been me afraid of this conversation. Fuck it up.
the Hoover thing is strong, man. That's because the thing is, I'm intrigued by the experience of what it could be to put my penis into a vacuum cleaner. I feel like there's because you guys, because you know, when you have a dick, it's like you just stick it into things, don't you? I mean, if I had a dick, there's a reason that I was not given a dick, because
it is very much a probe. You kind of want to kind of just see what happens, right? Especially at the age when you're discovering things, and you very swiftly learn what hurts and what doesn't. You know.
Yeah. Right.
So you wouldn't say, for example,
you take it to the edge. You take it to the edge.
Well, you wouldn't fuck a citrus fruit, for example.
Oh,
because
okay.
that's just.
Okay,
you know.
yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't do that. A cold pot noodle, perhaps. That's fine. You know, various sponges and goos.
Right, sponges,
you know,
yeah, I can see that.
And I'm sure there's a commonality between, and in fact, I'm sure there's a commonality of textured gloves.
Right. Okay.
That we both share. Not that we share a wanking glove or anything, but you know.
The creativity is impressive. Like, I think that I think there's something really beautiful about that time of exploring one's body and genitalia for oneself, with
various other tools that you may have around you,
implements or tools that one may find.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, I found my dad's porn stash when I was about 13, and he so when I was like putting on his suits and stuff when he was at work, there was this like a little unit that had a key in it, a little safe or something, and this is where I learned to pick locks. And so
you too, I picked locks for my filing cabinet at my college to nick the papers.
Yeah, paperclip. Yeah, it's a charm. So but basically they blatantly knew that I was going in it, because when I first found it, the key was in it, and then they took the key out, and that's when I learned to pick the lock with the paperclip. Anyway, so like I got into this thing, and there were loads of VHSs in there that were like German porn VHSs, right? Like,
and that's where they turned the butt into a cauliflower and stuff. The nasty German porn that you're right.
It was mainly like chicks that were like, so there's this one called the Fuckologist, and he was like, it was like 70s German porn, and there's like a dude, white dude with glasses, balding, white scientist lab coat.
I like how white is a defining factor twice in that sentence.
I know, and it's I'm just, you know, just because I like to use that word because it's important. And so he's like, he goes to meet this woman in reception, and she has an appointment with him. It's like, and then I'm like 13 watching this stuff, right? 12, 13, something like that. And he takes her into this corridor, and she has to lie down. She takes off her clothes, like lies down, and then there's this machine, and the machine has like a giant like dildo on the end of it, and he presses a button, and then she basically gets fucked by this machine with a dildo on the end of it, and he's just like taking notes or whatever, and like she's loving it,
like a scientific experiment.
Yeah, and so for me, like that was the first time I'd seen a woman naked, you know. So it was just like, whoa, like what is going on, you know? But there was loads of this porn. There was like, so there was some chick that was into old guys. There was like orgies. There was all kinds of stuff.
Your dad was into some varied shit.
Yeah, you know what? Like, respect, man. I'm grateful for that. I'm really glad that I found that porn stash. Big up dads, you know?
I mean, but on the comments is like, "Are you sure you're behaving seriously, dude? You missed the original, like the whole conversation. Watch it back. We're getting deep into this chat, bruv. It's fine.
We're going deep, yeah.
We're going deep,
yeah. So like, I accessed the porn stash like pretty early on. So like, I was watching all this. It's relatively heteronormative porn. There was a little bit of lesbo stuff in there, but yeah.
And there's always a bit of lesbo stuff in that.
A little bit, yeah.
I mean, you know, like I think that the patriarchal viewpoint really enjoys that.
Oh, of course, yeah. Like there is, you know, there is an element of, yeah, of course. There's a lens on that is. I remember this for years. You know, it's like if I was with a girlfriend or you know, a partner or whatever, and we were in a public space, it was like guys just felt like they had the right to just interject and feel like they were invited in on whatever our thing was, even when I was in a long-term relationship, you know, that sort of entitlement, you know, because yeah, a lot of straight guys, they're kind of cool with lesbians but not with gay guys, right? So there's a kind of objectifying, which in some ways, which is shit, obviously, but at the same time, there's we don't get as much beef in some ways because of that, you know. Because I think a lot of straight guys are scared of gay guys, right? A lot of straight guys are scared of gay guys because gay guys could treat them the way they treat women. Really simplistically, I'm just saying it.
100%, dude. I you know, there was a realization where I had was it DTPM at Fabric? The big gay night at Fabric.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was a similar sort of realization because I was just getting grabbed up left, right, and center. And I was like, "Oh shit, this is exactly what's been perpetuated against women. I should fucking behave, basically, because that's not fucking on, you know." Easy, Bailey. In fact, hang on. There's one comment here. DD Morales is saying, "Are you guys going deep, or was it the fuck? Was it the fuck attached to the machine that went deep?"
Oh, that went deep. Both.
It's interesting that whole idea of sort of I don't know, man. I think there's a whole thing that I think I'm privileged enough not to really engage with, which, or maybe I need to engage with it more, is not really considering the other in terms of like genders, or actually I'm saying this wrong because I'm a little bit tipsy. But I think I'm in a really lucky position where I'm not a prick, because I could, beg your pardon, I'm burping now, but I could very, very easily be a prick like that because I grew up in that environment.
Yeah. And that's why it's always refreshing talking to you, because there's like, I think that, you know, we all come with our judgments and stereotypes, you know, living under patriarchy and white supremacy and heteronormativity. We're going to have certain judgments that we navigate life with. We all have it, every single person on the planet, right? Because we all grow up with that. But at the same time, like, I think none of this stuff should matter is the point, you know? The fact is, like, it shouldn't matter. Someone's sexuality shouldn't matter. So the fact that, but in order for it to not matter, one has to go through the experience of acknowledging it and recognizing it. And that's the same for patriarchy, misogyny. That's the same for race and anti-blackness. That's the same for so many things when it comes to oppression. We can't just go, well, I don't see race, or I don't I don't have a problem with gay people. You know, you can't really say that, because unless you're from that community, there is a level of unlearning to do, and that requires work. And if you're not from that community, why would you do that work, you know? And that's why I love talking to you, because you to and think about the experiences of the people around you in terms of their aspects of marginalization, you know. And most people don't do that, man. You know, that's what we need people to be doing.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. Thankfully you glitched out during that compliment. No, you glitched out during the compliment, so I missed it, because I don't take compliments very well, so fuck you. So yes. Oh, listen, dude, I missed all of that. You literally went all cycly, and I missed it. So thanks for that. Okay. I get all embarrassed. I don't take that shit well. So fuck that.
Love anyway. I was just sending you love, man.
I love you too. Yeah. But I mean, okay, so going back to one thing, I just realized there's one thing I want to talk about, which we haven't talked about at all, is your Vice documentary.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
I know. It's fucked up, man.
Like, how is there a shadi.com, which is like a matrimonial fucking website?
Yeah.
Specifically for South Asians.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a ghost site for the gays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this is what happens, like, so for everyone watching, I recently made a documentary with Vice, and it came out in April. You can catch it on YouTube if you Google gay marriage scam, or you can find it on my Insta. So I started making this doc at the start of last year. So I came back, I spent 2 months in India, came back, Vice got in touch with me, and they were like, there's this organization called the Arranged Gay Marriage Bureau in India, and you know, do you want to present the doc? And I was like, yeah, sure. I haven't heard of them, which is strange because I know a lot of activists, and I'm quite plugged into the queer community in India.
And you'd fucking know, right?
Yeah, so I was like, oh, this is interesting. But then I went on the site, and it had been endorsed by somebody that I adore, and there were great testimonials from media around the world. And so I was
can you name the person that you adore? Do we know the mutual friend?
So
we don't have to. It's fine. It's more for me to know. You tell me offline.
Prince Raj Pipla, you know, the gay prince of India. He was an ambassador. He's not now, but he was listed as that at the time.
Okay.
And the organization was started, the bureau was started by a woman before legislation changed in India that decriminalized homosexuality. So there was British legislation that was put into India and that criminalized homosexuality, right? We were like quite happy being gay before that happened. And that legislation...
As most people are before legislation makes you an outlaw. Yeah.
It made it a taboo, right? And it made it a taboo for our grandparents and their parents and their parents. It made it a taboo for our parents, and it's made it a taboo for us. And we're unlearning that, and that's colonization. But so I checked it out, and I was like, cool. So we were gonna, the intention was that we were gonna interview different South Asian people around the UK, because it's an international site. They charge about, I think it's about $400 if you're in India, and about $600 if you're international and you want to meet somebody. And they say they have 3,700 people on their database.
Right.
The woman that runs it gives you a one-to-one conversation and understands what you're looking for. And because she says she's spoken to and vetted every single person on the database herself, so she knows who she can match you with.
Right.
And so we thought we'd be meeting different people going on their journeys of finding love. And, you know, for me, I had a point of contention initially, like contentiousness in terms of like, why is it called an arranged gay marriage bureau? Why isn't it just a dating bureau for gay people, right? So I spoke to her, and she was like, Reeta, we act as the parents because so many people in our community have been
like a bachola, basically.
You know, because we are disowned, we are cut out like a cancer. You know, the BBC report that came out a couple of years ago that talks about statistically how liberal and conservative the British Asian community is versus the rest of the UK population. What it found is that we're twice as likely to not approve of same-sex relationships, right? Than the UK average, right? And in addition to that, that statistic doesn't change when we look at younger demographics. So we are not accepting our homosexual siblings.
Yeah.
We're cutting them out like a cancer and disowning them, like what happened to me, right? So when she said we act as parents, like it hit me in the heart, you know, because I lost my family. So I was like, oh wow, I can having escaped arranged marriage my whole life, here I was speaking to this woman who made me feel like she was taking that responsibility with my family, right?
Yeah.
And at the time I was single, I'd come out of a big relationship. I took 6 months out with myself, not dating. And I was ready to date again. And so I thought, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to sign up, right? I'm going to sign up to this thing. I want to try it out. So I filled out
like for real?
For real, yeah. So I filled out, I was like, might get myself a Desi wife, you know. So like I filled out the massive survey, which, you know, I assumed would have a database and algorithm working behind it, like most dating sites. And then I had the conversation with her. So I was a participant in it I signed up as a presenter, but then I ended up sort of signing up to it as well, just kind of going, why not? You
to
know,
find
like,
the love,
try it out.
basically. Listen, my camera's going to go black.
Like,
1 second.
what, like,
I'm listening. Hang on 1 second. Yeah, carry on.
So there's something about dating in our culture as South Asian women in particular. It's very hard to meet other South Asian queer women.
Yeah.
Particularly in the diaspora. And so for me, I was like, you know, I would like to have that experience. And so I was like, yeah, okay, I'll sign up as well. And that's how good she was at selling it to me. And then, yeah, I found, well, basically, over the course of the documentary, it sort of unraveled for us to discover that it was a scam.
Shit.
And so,
was that the intention when you started out?
No,
to try
not
get
at all.
behind it?
We thought we were going to be filming a big gay Bollywood wedding, and I thought I might go on some dates with some nice women, and you know, maybe find a partner, you know, or maybe make some friends,
or just do some touchings also.
Yeah, or do some touchings. And what ended up happening was that yeah, we found that, so she was really slow at sending responses. She would duck out of shoot dates that we'd set up, and the whole crew was set up. And then she sent, eventually, after several months, we were meant to film the documentary in 3 months. It ended up taking a year. And the reason for that is that she sent 2 profiles to somebody else that was looking for love that we were documenting.
Right.
And she sent 2 profiles to me. And he was really wary of his profiles. And at the time I was like, I don't get why you're wary. Like, I was still really excited about the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then when I got my profiles, like several months in, I was like, these don't sound right. So one girl was in Canada and one girl was in New York.
Right.
And they both said that they were born and raised there, and they were seeking partners. Now, when I wrote my dating profile, man, I fucking sold myself. Like, I'm looking for my life partner.
Right.
That was a solid profile that I wrote, right?
Yeah.
Trying to sell myself, it's like, it's basically the biggest pitch of your life, right? Meanwhile, the responses that I got, the profiles that I got sounded really, if they sounded iffy in the way that they were written, they sounded like they'd been written by Indians in India and not
like copy and
diaspora,
paste guys.
So basically, yeah. So it turns out that it was a copy and paste job, and so they were taking profiles from other parts of the internet and pretending that they were legit when they weren't.
Yeah.
The organization doesn't have a fixed address. There's a bus stand that comes up when you Google it. I've never seen any of her employees. It's just her. The testimonials of all the couples that she had claimed had got married through the bureau, I spoke to everybody, and they all said they'd never heard of her. Right. So we interviewed couples and individuals that had gone through it. And yeah, it is really sad, you know, because here's somebody that is not part of our community who is capitalizing financially on the basic human right of finding love. Like, we're born on this planet to experience love, in my opinion, and our basic human right is to find that in another person, and whether you spend your life with them or not is irrelevant. You know, that's a basic human right. Not only is it criminalized for LGBT people, but you have people that are targeting us because we have no safe spaces to go to. We don't have any way to meet people like us in India at the time, right? So you know you're gay, your family doesn't know, you've got nowhere to go, you think you don't know how to meet people, there are no spaces, you sign up to this thing, you spend enough money, man, that's a lot of money, right? And you know, $300-400 US dollars, and then nothing happens. You get sent some fake profiles, and eventually, even if you say I'm interested in this person, that like the other person in the documentary did, and he was told, oh, they're not interested in you, you feel rejected. They're not interested in you because it's a fake profile, right?
Yeah, so totally. So it just reinforces the negativity that you're already feeling.
So yeah, then you're dealing with that rejection that you're already feeling from society. It's so fucked up, man. And so like, it took until we set up 4 times to have a confrontation with her.
Yeah.
I flew back from the States on 2 occasions for that, right? Because it massively run over how long it was going to take. It took a year instead of 3 months. And then she dodged and dodged and dodged, and we thought she might be onto us. And then we finally got her on the phone in January. And I spent an hour confronting her. I spent an hour, and she looked like she was actually going to admit several times.
Yeah.
But she didn't. She just apologized and said that she would follow up with legit people that could validate the organization. But that's never happened. We haven't had that. People are asking, you can get it on, you can find it. It's just gay marriage scam. If you just Google that, it's on YouTube, it's on Vice, and it's also on my Instagram. But yeah, it's just really disheartening to think that on top of everything else that we have to deal with, family rejection, criminalization, being called names when you walk down the street, you know, you then have people that are actually actively going, how can I capitalize on this community that's already vulnerable? It's not cool. My hope is that we can get the bureau shut down. I have been approached by lawyers. We've had a lot of media globally around it. But yeah, I just don't want anyone else to sign up to it.
So it still exists, is the point?
Sorry?
It still exists post the documentary. It's still active.
I think it would have to be legal to shut it down. It still exists, yeah.
Okay. That's so fucked.
Yeah. It is, yeah.
Ah, shit.
Still active. Bureau, don't use it.
Huh.
Yeah. So
I mean, shit.
I think, yeah.
I mean, it seems like in sort of there's an awful lot of kind of bait and switching happening, you know, across the board in India, whether it's targeting old people or targeting lonely people or targeting lonely gay people. It's like that kind of that approach of finding the vulnerable and taking advantage of them is a continual thing.
Yeah, and I think that there's, you know, when I was in Bombay, I think like a couple of years ago, I signed up to Tinder when I was there, and it was, and another app, Hinge, and Tinder was just like, my profile said that I was a woman looking to meet women, and 90% of what I was getting was men's profiles. Like,
what, through the algorithm?
Through the algorithm, it's like a really basic. On Tinder, it's like it's a basic thing. Like, and the only assumption that I can make is it's guys that have set their profiles up as women. They've gendered themselves as women so they can meet women, right? And
wow.
What was happening on Hinge was the women that did get in touch were like, their algorithm's better, a newer app. Tinder's, there's no excuse. I need to fix up. But with Hinge, I was getting messages from guys who'd set up profiles under their girlfriends' names, right? Who basically just wanted a threesome. So it's like, it's weird culture, man. But then at the same time, I've got friends who are lesbians in India or queer in India, and there is a community. You know, I went to Bombay. I DJed at Bombay Pride the year before last, and then I went after legislation change, and you know, was part of that celebration and walked in the parade, and it was like, you know, there is a sense of community, and there are organizations and there are meetups and stuff like that, but it also feels like there's a lot of piss taking going on. Do you know what I mean? The safeguarding doesn't feel like it's there.
Yeah.
You know? And you can have legislation change, but it doesn't necessarily shift mindsets straight away. It takes time, right? So I think societally,
I'm not in it, so I can't comment.
In India, for mindsets to change.
I mean, the folks that I know that are active on the queer scene in India are actually just, again, I'm privileged, so I can't fucking talk really about that whole experience, you know? So I think whatever I have to say is not relevant, in all honesty. I'm just very lucky. The people I've met there are kind of, people that I've met there that are openly gay of any gender are just fucking badasses and do their thing, you know? In the face of ridiculous adversity, particularly when, even if it's not legislative, there's the on the street kind of shit you'd get over there, you know, which is, you know, India,
yeah,
it's kind
absolutely.
of, you can instigate some fucking violent street level shit like that. So I don't know, but again, I kind of have, maybe it's my bias in terms of a sense of hope for you know, for what I've experienced over them, the people I know, you know, I think I'm biased in that respect. And in some ways, it's more progressive than over here, I feel. Not the gay scene in particular, but in terms of progressive ideas, generally.
Yeah,
but other ways very
yeah.
backward as well.
I feel hopeful. I think it's a massive change. Like, I think legislation. I think in some ways, yeah, yeah. I think so. I think so.
I think there's a
I
mad
think,
delay on this because I stopped talking ages ago.
I think there is. I think legislation change is a start, and then I think everything else that comes is about the work. There is a delay. Yeah, you're glitching out for me.
Yeah.
I think there is. I'm hopeful as well, and I think it's really legislation change is like the start of like really positive change. But I think it's down to activists and charities and individuals to shift those mindsets, because the reality is, if you are part of a certain subset of the community, it's much easier for you, and they're possibly the people that we spend time with. But I think, you know, if you're talking about Jalandhar, where my family's from, it's a very different experience, right? Or understanding or acceptance or level of safety. So I think it's the start, but there's a lot of work to do. And India so far is the largest of 53 Commonwealth countries to change that legislation. So it's a big symbol to other countries to follow, which they have been doing. But it feels a bit mad that we're even talking about changing colonial legislation like 70 years after independence. Do you know what I mean? It feels a bit mad that that's even where we're at, you know? But I think there's a lot of work to do in our community, you know, like here and there.
I think that's actually kind of good, considering that civil rights in America is so recent, considering that any progressive change is shockingly recent. You know, like I have, there was someone that was very close to me that is no longer close to me because I think they're a complete bastard. And they said to me when I was a kid, you know, that everything's already been done. There's nothing new to happen. And as an adult, I'm looking back going, that's why you're a prick, because that's what you assume. So I have this hope as well. And on that note, really quickly, I need your help about something.
Yeah.
Is that one of my favorite swear words is the word cunt. I love the word cunt. But I can no longer use that because it has like a violently gender-orientated aspect to it, which I don't intend. So I need an alternative. Can you help me, please?
I just tried to rebalance by using the word cock, or dick. I also gender my cuss words sometimes. Cunt is a great word, and it's so powerful, and it's the ultimate word, right? Cunt is the ultimate word. And I remember for years, like, if you said that word, everyone would look at you like, you know. And the reasons for that were not really known. It's because of the way it sounds as well. It's such a satisfying word to say.
It's
right?
it's like a sort of curved start and a very blunt end. It's quite
exactly
cutting.
The onomatopoeia of it is perfect.
But also, like, I was thinking,
so
I try and
rebalance it by using male term.
Yeah, I think male terminology is actually really weak.
I like to use bastard. I use bastard a lot. I think that's quite an Asian thing as well, right? We use bastard.
But it's quite I use it endearingly.
Yeah, it is a bit. I think bastard's a good one, especially if you say it in a Desi accent. Bastard.
Bastard is, I mean, bastard is good, but the thing is, there's too much love in that. And equally, there's like, you can't, and it's kind of like friendly and familiar. And then it's calling someone the ultimate fuck you, like, you are the ultimate, like, problem of the universe, which isn't really reflective of female genitalia. So what word could replace that? I don't know. I've been pondering it for a while. I'm not putting it on you as like a sort of
in some ways, like, okay, so my opinion on it is that the word is less important than the intent. And I think that the word, as you've just said, like you sometimes use it in a loving way. So it's like, it's about the intent. But I think that we do, you know, we are in a place where we're trying to shift patriarchy. We're trying to shift racism. We're trying to shift these bullshit systems of oppression. And, you know, we have to unlearn certain language, you know, that just perpetuates, you know. I used to use the word bitch a lot when I was younger, and then I was like, actually, this is such a misogynistic word. Why am I using it? You know. And then got to the same place with cunt, and then it was like, actually, we can actually use words that don't have a gender. You know.
Yeah. I'm still on the hunt for it. I'm on the hunt for a replacement of the word.
Maybe you can just make one up. It's the era of you know, new language. So why not just make one up?
Yeah, I've got to work on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can come up with something pretty good.
I think so too.
So so what is there anything else you wanted to chat about, or?
No, I think we're good. I think I might go for a wee again.
Yeah,
I think we could call this. So yeah, thank you so much.
I love you, darling. Thank you. So
love
good to
you
chat
too.
to you into your face.
Yeah.
And yeah, I look forward to catching up with you soon.
And in real life.
Thanks to everyone that's been watching. Thank you so much for the beautiful comments.
Yeah, and yeah,
Take care.
and yeah, indeed. Thank you for everyone watching. Thank you for joining us on this ridiculous bar chat. But it really does feel like we're in a bar talking shit at each other.
Yeah, it does. It does. I think you're on something.
I think so.
We need this. I need this. So yeah, it's good. Thank you.
Yeah, I need a wee. That's what I need.
All
okay,
right,
my love.
Go. Sort your bladder
See you in
out.
a bit.
Love
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.